This show is a fucking abomination. Yes, that's the first pun I've ever used, and it's still 10,000 times more effective than any of the humor attempted in this frying pan to the face of superhero, comedy, drama, legal writing. Let's dive face first into the shit salad sandwich of a quote-unquote television show. Jennifer Walters is a moderately successful litigation attorney, stagnated in life mostly, I assume, by taking time out of her busy day to talk directly into a camera that exists solely for her to vent personal frustrations and possibly to explain, to anyone listening, why the fuck she makes any of the stupefying decisions that she does. Fourth wall breaking is so cinematically cringe-tastic that it makes the concept of a dream sequence seem quaint by comparison. I digress. This introductory scene makes me yearn comparatively for the simplistic stupidity of Loki. Fucking Loki. Already in the first 30 seconds of this paltry sham of cinematic marble shattery, we've established that Jen is inconsiderate, entitled, and enamored of the concept of bobbleheaded representation of her values. I'm trying to imagine a Gandhi bobblehead and a Martin Luther King Jr. bobblehead sitting adjacent to each other on my mantle collecting dust. Not a good look. She then sideswipes her admittedly idiotically characterized male attorney counterpart with some limply peppered jabs at generalized manhood, reinforced by her Chanel-clad female attaché. Enter Bruce fucking Banner. The Incredible fucking Hulk. They are cousins. Jen and Bruce trade witless banter on such mind-numbing topics as Captain America's virginity and eating Cheetos with chopsticks. Suddenly an alien spacecraft dips onto the road directly in front of their car, causing the car to veer wildly from the original comic source material and crash into a ditch. A wounded Jen comes to the aid of the Incredible Hulk, gets some of his gamma-irradiated blood in one of her wounds, and passes out. I'll spare you the details of why all of that is profoundly absurd. Jen awakens in a ditch somewhere. She crosses the road and stumbles into a local shit-kicker bar bathroom. Immediately a gaggle of cartoon femmes enters the bathroom, virtue signaling wildly, and assume that Jen has been the victim of abuse. Proceed to doll her up like a thrift store drag queen and leave her alone to potentially more abuse. Outside the bar, she is hit upon by 3 slightly aggressive bar bros. She hulks out, but before she can lay waste to them is tackled by her cousin, also now in Hulk form. Jen wakes up in bed and is informed by Smart Hulk that the minuscule amount of his blood that happened to touch her apparently leech-like vein has caused her to also become a Hulk. Does that seem stupid to anyone else? The question is rhetorical. Bruce then thoughtfully attempts to illustrate the scope of potential issues that Jen now faces, having superhero-level strength and the global tier damage that she can cause. She rebuffs him with extreme prejudice, and despite having full knowledge of all that Bruce has been through over the past 15 years, hand-waves away with smug disdain any suggestion of the notion that she can now destroy entire cities if she has a particularly painful visit from her crimson auntie. She literally states that simply being a woman makes her able to control her anger, citing possibly being murdered as one of several dating outcomes. Sweet Hulk proceeds to then attempt to train her in controlling her anger and utilizing her newfound strength. She, of course, outmatches him in every category because the writers of this man-slamming bread crust of a show absolutely, positively cannot possibly allow a single full scene to carry through without emasculating and devaluing any and every male character involved, even to the detriment of this training montage, a scene which, in most circles of storytelling structure, is designed to support the concept of character development. Do you realize that you've written a training montage that's sole purpose is to illustrate that the protagonist has no room to develop at all? Bravo. Chef's kiss. Sterling stuff, you Bordeaux-blanched, battery-powered bunt-cake-shoveling bimbos. Smirk Hulk then explains that Jen will have to remain on his island for an indeterminate amount of time, pending her grasp of her new abilities and an understanding of the dangers involved in releasing her upon the world. To be fair, Everything we've seen from Mary Sue Hulkington suggests that she has no character flaws or emotional instabilities beyond just being an insufferably self-serving bitch. Jen whines about wanting to return to her marginally successful job and her buzzing social life, which consists of exactly one person, who also happens to be a coworker. She rejects the idea of embracing her powers for the good of humanity, so that she can continue to play ill-conceived courtroom games and swipe right while guzzling wine and brooding in sweatpants. They fight, and to absolutely no one's surprise, Shulk S. clobbers real Hulk as though he were a 12-inch action figure. Bruce then relents, allowing her to leave the island. This is where I stopped watching the first time. It had become painfully and embarrassingly obvious what the theme of this show is going to be going forward. Men are pigs. Not just some men, not even most men. All men. That's fine if the audience you're tailoring your cinematic storytelling for is intended to be exclusively women, but this is a Disney show, set within the established Marvel Cinematic Universe. Surely you realize that your viewership would constitute a pretty sweet cross-section of the general populace of the entire world, and, yet, you decided to take half of those viewers, spit in their faces, kick them square in the eyeballs with your pointy-toed Manila Blahniks, and she-splain hiss at them that their attempts at average human communication are ineffectual and outright murderous. Okay. So, in order to finish this review, I was forced to wade back into the bubbling sewage swamp to climb the final 10 minutes of this man-hating, fan-baiting shit heap. Okay, wow, that was a lot less than 10 minutes. The final and mercifully brief 5-minute scene shows Jen returning to the courtroom only to have the proceedings interrupted by a Gucci-bedazzled personage with a sense of style dialed all the way up to gaudy, smashing through the wall of the courtroom. Jen is then coaxed into hulking out to stop the superhuman housewife from hurting anyone. The fight scene lasts exactly 2 seconds, yet somehow still contains some of the worst fight choreography in all of cinematic history. In a heartwarming, rather rewarming, post-credits conversational casserole, Jen and Bruce Hulk are found sitting at his island bar, discussing once again whether or not Captain America is a virgin. Hilarious. She-Hulk does a handstand, gives you the finger, and claps thunderously at itself, and that's just episode 1. As far as origin stories go, this ranks right up there with The Toxic Avenger, a film that actually knows how terrible it is and embraces it with open arms. At least The Toxic Avenger doesn't take a burly green, femme-sized shit in the opposite sex. She-Fuck cannot claim the same. The only real agendas it seems to have is aggrandizing the plight of the modern middle-aged armchair wine-infused feminist, reducing the brain cells of Disney Plus subscribers to single digits, and emasculating the entire male populace of the English-speaking world. In regards to those particularly nefarious criteria, it is irrefutably successful. There's really very little to like about this show unless you're a middle-aged superhero-loving housewife with little to no cinematics or storytelling standards and are tits deep into a box of Franzia's finest fruity red sangria. Despite the wealth of material for me from which to cultivate more earned insults and video reviews, I believe that it will just be more of the same, which in my opinion is simply beating a dead Hulk. Hard pass for me on any further episodes.